You're good.
Floor to public comment. First is Carrie. Come on up, state your name, and share your concerns. We won't comment on this, but we'll listen to your concerns.
Okay.
Okay.
Carrie Peepo. I guess I just have some concerns with the Shannon Hinnenkamp thing. There's kind of a lot going on there. I'm assuming you guys know about most of it from the last meeting or whatever. The only real topics I just want to cover today is the Junkyard Act is still being violated. It keeps getting bigger. And then on the fences that aren't the right height or anything like that, the one closest to my house, Minnesota has their statutes on fencing. If you put that type of fence up, you need to leave room to be able to build the fence and whatnot. You have to give the nice side of the fence to the neighbor under the good neighbor law. So there's that. And then as far as covering that up, the posts are 8 foot, and that's how you measure the height of the fence, is the height of the posts. So even if I come in with my own fence to block it out, which I shouldn't have to, I can't block that out. And then I did price out fences to, block out the crappy fence. And we're looking at $7,800 to $14,000 just in materials to build a fence, privacy fence. And that's not labor, not nothing.
Okay.
So, and then the other thing I'd like to, say is we've got the Junkyard Act and the burning of toxic materials, which smoked our house out, smoked the other neighbor out. Do we want to bring that closer to my house? And do we want to wait 20 years for trees to grow to block it out? His fences already don't work at his business where it is. What makes you think they're going to work now? Even with the taller back fence, I can see 3/4 of the ground in that chunk from inside my house. See, it ain't going to cover up cars that are taller than that, especially when he stacks them 4 or 5 high back in his, well, he moved them this week, but.
Okay.
So that's all I got today.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Okay, next on their list is Shannon.
Yeah, I don't know where to start here. First of all, when I put that fence up back there, part of it was already erected. I stopped when my shop burned down some years back, and I never got back at it for a couple of reasons. Expense that I couldn't afford at the time because I lost a lot when my shop burned down and stuff. And second of all, I wasn't even using the lot, and I still am not to this day. So there's nothing there for him to look at. He moved in there 3-4 years ago, long after my salvage yard was there and my pile was there and everything else. And it didn't bother him then. Now all of a sudden, I refused to sell him that extra land I got there and stuff, so he's pissed off at me because I won't sell him the land, and now he's taking it out on me. So that's where all this stemmed from. As far as the fence goes, I started putting part of that up. I was gonna finish it. He wouldn't let me go on his side of the fence, put the nice side out. So all he's doing is lying and feeding you a line of bullshit. And I was gonna put the nice side out towards his side. He wouldn't let me go over there. He wouldn't let my guys go over there and finish the fence on that side. That's why it is the way it is.
Okay.
The reason why I never planted trees in there is because it's all sand. They're not gonna grow. I don't have 2-3 hours a day to go water trees. Plus I'd have to probably buy a truck or something because I'm about 2,000 feet away from my water supply. So it's just not feasible. This fence should have been put right on the line. That's the way it says in the statutes. The fence should be put right on the line on commercial property. And that's what I wanted to do in the first place. And then they talked about me planting trees and everything there. And I'm not even sure that that was supposed to be on there because when I was at the last meeting years ago, I understood that that was out of the question, but somehow it got put in there. But, if he didn't want to look at my fence or my salvage yard or whatever, then he should have never bought the place in the first place 2-3 years ago or 4 years ago. It was there already then. And I'm just sick of the bullshit lies and stuff like that. All I'm trying to do is do business, and, my place is clean. You don't ever see no junk in front of my place. You can drive in my place, there's no junk laying around except around the pile where it's supposed to be, scrap iron and stuff like that. And, I get a lot of compliments from people. I get a lot of people, I haul a lot in from Todd County. And I'm just sick of the crap. You know, I'm not doing anybody any harm. These people have nothing better to do. Maybe you should just get a job instead of, aggravating people.
Thank you.
Another lie?
Thank you.
What you wanna do?
Hey, that's,
I have to plant trees
hey, you guys,
If anybody's got any questions during the meeting or whatever, just call me. I'll answer what I can.
okay. We've got a wedding scheduled at the park on the 28th. That's gonna be a little chilly,
It could be.
maybe. We're gonna start. Good morning, Todd County. Welcome to Tuesday, October 17th, 2023, the Todd County Board of Commissioners regular meeting. Roll call today will be Commissioner Denny, Commissioner Becker, Commissioner Newman, Commissioner Noska. Also joining us would be Auditor Treasurer Gaida, Coordinator Pelzer, and County Attorney Lindeman. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once again, good morning. Is there any amendments to the agenda?
I have none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, with none, I'd ask for a motion, please.
So move.
Motion by Becker, is there a second?
Second.
Ooh, close. Noska. That's my good ear.
There you go.
Yeah, thanks. Any discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Consent items.
Consent items today are the meeting minute approval for October 3rd, 2023. Accept the resignation of Brian Thorstead, full-time deputy on 11/4/2023. Appoint social worker Richard Metler, start date 10/30/2023. Appoint child services supervisor Brianna Martin, start date to be determined. Appoint part-time deputy auditor treasurer Rachel Mittendorf, start date 10/23/2023. And gambling permit for Todd County Council on Aging.
Okay, you've heard the requests. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
First item I have today then is to approve the commissioner warrants. Background is sent for your review. The recommendation is to approve the commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $186,517.68.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Noska. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Noska,
Yes.
Commissioner Denny,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item would be the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants. Background is sent for your review. The recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $106,661.78.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Denny,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Noska,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman.
Yes.
The next item I have would be the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants. Background is sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling in the amount of $140,081.01.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Noska. Discussion? If none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Noska,
Yes.
Commissioner Denny,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman.
Yes.
The last item I have today then is the 2024, to adopt the 2024 county fee schedule. Background is Todd County has built a county fee schedule to be implemented for 2024, and a public hearing was held on October 3rd, 2023 to gather any public input on the proposed fees. Your options today are to adopt the fee schedule as presented, do not adopt the 2024 county fee schedule as presented, or the third option is to adopt the 24 fee schedule with desired alterations if you have any. The recommendation at this time would be to adopt the 2024 county fee schedule to be effective January 1 of 2024 per the attached document.
Okay. You've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Noska. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Ditch Ag Inspector, Nancy, good morning.
Morning. Okay, I have two agenda items this morning. The first one is to acknowledge receipt of County Ditch 32 hold harmless agreement for ditch maintenance. Recommendations, the Todd County Board of Commissioners approves the following by motion. Acting as ditch authority, acknowledge receipt of a hold harmless agreement petition to clean sections of County Ditch 32 on parcel 2400116000, Turtle Creek Township, Section 11.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Right, my second one is acknowledge receipt of County Ditch 3 hold harmless agreement for ditch maintenance. Recommendation, the Todd County Board of Commissioners approves the following by motion. Acting as ditch authority, acknowledge receipt of a hold harmless agreement petition to clean a section of CD 33 on parcel 17-0002301, Little Sock Township, Section 3.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Nazca. Is there a second?
Second.
By Becker. Discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thanks.
Okay, we're gonna open it up for the second public hearing for the cannabis ordinance prohibiting use in public places and places of public accommodation. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at the August 15th, 2023, the Todd County Board of Commissioners had discussion on considering an ordinance prohibiting the use of cannabis in public places and places of public accommodation. As required by law, public hearing dates were set with the first hearing date of September 19th and the second hearing date of October 17th to gather public input on the proposed ordinance. The purpose of today's discussion is for the second public hearing and to accept the amendments to the ordinance. So, Mr. Chair, just a little additional background. We did have a meeting last Wednesday with a number of cities attending that over Zoom and some in person. We talked through the changes that were discussed at the first public hearing, and those cities didn't have any concerns with those changes. County attorney weighed in on those changes and the definitions of public places and places of public accommodation. And we feel that this ordinance is ready for accepting these amendments and for adoption at the next board meeting. So Denise, if I could have you just scroll down, we can look at those changes. So the changes are noted in the underlined area. That first is just adding the Todd County Board of Commissioners. There's a move of a paragraph that's in the green underline, and then the red sentence is related to the public health nuisance. So that allows this ordinance to be effective across the entire county. And Denise, if you want to keep scrolling. And then the next change comes with public places, and that is just modifying this template to say that a public place is a public park, a trail, a public recreation area, public street, any publicly owned property, any enclosed area. And then we also talk about theaters, restaurants, bars, food establishments, and their decks. So had some really good discussion about this topic. And then if we move on down to, I think that might be actually the last place. If you scroll up, Denise, a little bit, we talked about places of public accommodation. So keep going up a little bit.
Okay. Right
Yeah.
there.
Yep. So that kind of encompasses all those areas where the public might gather. So, and Mr. Chair, with that, I did not receive any specific public comment, but maybe there's somebody here with that.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this issue? On this ordinance? If
Mr.
none,
Chair, if I could, Chris, is this available for anybody to look up on the website the county website, correct?
It is. That was part of the requirement of having this hearing, is that we had to have this posted, so.
And then always remember that all this document is on the county website. If they just go to the county board meetings, you can always pull up any of this document from previous meetings. You can watch the live stream and you can watch, or you can research the documents.
Thank you.
So at this time, Mr. Chair, the action that is requested for today is to accept the amendments that have been made with these last two meetings, and then it will come before board for full adoption. But if you would take the time to just accept those amendments.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the amendments to the draft as written?
Make that motion for acceptance of the new draft as presented today.
Okay. Motion by Becker, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay. MIS.
Good morning.
Morning.
What I have for you today is a board action for a server purchase. The background is on the agenda. As part of the technology rotation schedule, a host server is scheduled for replacement this year. Quotes were received and funding sources have been secured for the purchase. Contributing funding sources are Compliance Fund, Recorder Technology Fund, Corrections, Social Services, and MIS budget. Because this purchase is over $5,000, county board approval is needed. The total cost of the server is $13,859.06. The breakdown per fund is included. Your options today are to approve the purchase of the server through Dell in the amount of $13,859.06, utilizing funding sources listed, or do not approve. Recommendations is to approve the purchase of the server through Dell in the amount of $13,859.06, utilizing funding sources listed.
Okay. Heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mitch?
Good morning, everyone. Morning. I just have one item on the agenda here for you. The topic for the agenda is the impound lot grading. The background is the Facilities Committee is recommending the regrading of the impound lot at the Todd County Storage Shed due to sloping issues towards the building. This Facilities Department has been addressing this issue, but the regrading of the impound lot would be a permanent solution. Bids were submitted with the lowest bid being for excavating being from Chad Trudowski Excavating for $10,791. The fencing bid, low bid, was from Oberg Fencing for $12,742. The total cost of the project is $23,533. The options are to approve the low bid from Chad Trudowski Excavating and Oberg Fencing for a total cost of $23,533, or do not approve the request. The Facilities Committee is recommending to approve the low bid from the Chad Trudowski Excavating and Oberg Fencing for a total cost of $23,533.
Okay. Heard the request. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Excuse me. Discussion. So we were out there earlier this spring and there was water issues coming from that south side into that, so it needs to be addressed, otherwise it's gonna be a
Yeah,
continuing problem.
correct. This project happened just before my time, and we'd been aware of the issue, just timing of the issue and taking care of it. We've been removing snow with our skid steer out there to try and minimize the water damage that is going on after we received notice, but this is clearly the best issue to go, or the best way to go about it. The slope is just in the wrong direction, if you will. There was an attempt to put a swale in, but that just doesn't take care of it, and this will be a permanent solution, so.
Okay, Thanks for that explanation.
Yep.
Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. I'm gonna abstain from that one.
I was gonna ask if you
Yeah,
were gonna.
thank you.
Oscar will abstain
It's
as
my uncle.
relative.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm not voting on that one.
okay.
I was gonna ask.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Good call.
Trying to put that one together. Okay, anyway. Commissioners, what we have on here is Long Higgins petition for outlet project. Bob, you want to come on up and have a seat, please? Okay. The reason we put it on the agenda today, we were waiting for a response from the county attorney. And John did give us his legal opinion on this. You guys are stuck within a rock and a hard place because of the bond going to the Sauk River watershed for 1.4 million. And then they requested that you guys come up with a bond. Correct? So I guess the discussion we want to have amongst the board here is how we move forward with this to help Long Higgins resolve this. So I'm gonna open it up. John, would you?
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
If I may, I think maybe we should have the board action read into record first,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Chris?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the background for this board action, which the board action is Long Higgins Lake petition for outlet project with the Sauk River Watershed District. The background is as part of the 2023 legislative session, the Minnesota legislature appropriated $1.4 million to the Commissioner of Natural Resources for a grant to the Sauk River Watershed District to design, construct, and equip a gravity outlet conveyance system. Because the Sauk River Watershed District Board did not unanimously approve the project, benefiting landowners are required to petition Sauk River Watershed District for establishment of that project. Pursuant to Minnesota Statute 103D.705 Subdivision 3, if the Todd County Board signs on as a petitioner, no bond will be required for the project. In any case, benefiting landowners and not Todd County as a whole would be responsible for all costs and expenses incurred to complete the project above the 1.4 million grant amount. Similarly, benefiting landowners and not Todd County as a whole would be responsible for all costs and expenses incurred in preparation for the project if it is not completed for whatever reason. So with that, there were some recommended options for the board to consider. And the option would be to amend the proposed petition, item number 14, which a draft petition was sent from Sauk River Watershed District. So amend that item 14 to include the following: benefiting landowners and not Todd County as a whole would be responsible for all costs and expenses incurred to complete the project above the 1.4 million grant amount. Similarly, benefited landowners and not Todd County as a whole would be responsible for all costs and expenses incurred in preparation for the project if it is not completed for whatever reason. Also require a majority of 51% of landowners' signatures before Todd County signs on as a petitioner, or not sign on.
Okay, now John, thank you.
Mr. Chair, thank you, and thank you, Chris. The board action states the problem very succinctly. Had the Sauk River Watershed District Board unanimously approved the project and approved going forward with the 1.4 million allocated by the legislature, we wouldn't be here today. The project would have been started, but because it wasn't unanimous, we have to consider helping out the benefiting landowners. The good news is that if we sign on as co-petitioners, as Chris stated, no bond is required. But as part of that, we want to make sure that the benefiting landowners know two things. One, we're not going to do this unless a majority of them sign on to the petition as well. And two, if the costs do go over $1.4 million, that they themselves, the benefiting landowners, will be on the hook and not Todd County as a whole. So the proposed, we started with a draft petition. We added some language that clarifies all the things that I just said and that Chris said in the board action. And that's where it stands. So that's a good place to begin the discussion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Bob?
Well, we'd like to see you guys sign on, because if, the way I understand it, everybody around the lake has gotta sign the petition. That means they're on the hook for anything more than the 1.4. Well, we don't even know what it's gonna be, cause we gotta get the bond or the petition, you guys sign on in order to get bids. Now, at one point, it was only 1 point whatever million. Now it's 1.397, and the guy who bid it even said he bid it high, and we only got one bid.
Right.
So we need to move on to the next step so we can actually get a bid, so we know how much money to raise. But nobody around the lake, and I wouldn't think anybody here either, would want to sign something saying that they would owe an extra how many hundreds of thousands of dollars when we don't even know how much we would owe. But we'd like to go after grants and fundraising and whatever, so we need to, we need to get to the next step, which would be great if you guys could sign on to the petition, then we wouldn't need that bond.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask a question. For clarification, do we get the 51% of the people around the lake signatures before we sign this? How does that go, John?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Becker, I think that's a good idea. So the benefiting landowners don't feel like this is something that was foisted upon them by the county or by some vocal minority. I just think it's good business to say, okay, we've got a majority who's in support of this before we sign on. It is a great benefit, or would be a great benefit, to eliminate that bonding requirement, to join these benefiting landowners as a co-petitioner, but unless and until there's that show of support, I don't think we're helping anybody by signing on.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Bob, do you feel like the 51% will be hard to get those signatures, or do you think it's going to be fairly simple for you and easy process?
Well, let me clarify, what am I getting the signatures for? People that are for it, or people that are wanting to take 1/25th, because there's 25 landowners around the lake, 1/25th of several $100,000.
From the way I see it, anything above the 1.4 million, you're basically signing a petition to say that you're on the hook for it.
Okay.
Anything above and beyond. Isn't that the way we read this, John? Yep. Yep. Thank you.
I think that we can get that.
Okay.
It just right now, people around the lake are thinking they have to sign this bond or sign a petition that would provide the bond, which they would be on the hook for, like 280,000 or something. And that's what they're not wanting to do. We need to get to the next step to find out how much, do we need $0 or do we need 400,000? So I think we can get those signatures.
And that's what created that rock and hard spot, because you can't put it out for bids unless you got the bond.
Right.
And what we've seen here recently at the county, we projected doing our landfill for about 700,000, and a bid come in around under 200,000. So I mean, you don't know until you put it out for bids. And in order to do that, the bond's gotta be taken care of. So what's you guys' thoughts?
Well, I believe that we should have the signatures first in hand. So I don't know how we go about approving this.
Mr. Chair, I would suggest that you as a board can act on this board action, and then once that petition comes back and the signatures equal that 51% or they're greater, that's when you actually would sign off on it. What you're saying here is you're really committing to Higgins Long landowners that If they get this, you'll sign on as well.
We'll cover, or what, we will sign on, so there is no bond.
So, and then there would be an additional board action
Yep,
for you to take that step.
okay. Gotcha. Got that?
And Mr. Chair, this is something that you may want to consider. John and I talked about that majority, and that is at the 51%, but it's at the board's discretion if that percentage should be different than 51. We just said majority.
Okay, I guess we'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept as presented on option 1.
Okay. So we have a motion by Nazca. Do we have a second to that?
I'll second.
Second by Denny. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
I've got a little for you here. And Bob, if you're gonna get these petitions, I mean, as a county board, I believe that we would like to see more than 51%, more than 13 landowners. If you could get 18, 19, 20 would be fantastic, because you said there's 25, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, if you could get that, that would be great to see. I mean, it'd put a little more confidence in us,
Oh, yeah.
but I think 51% is a majority, and
I agree.
and 13 is more than 51%, so just a hair.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just want to clarify, so I know from the auditor's office, we're going to be getting a petition, but these landowners know that anything above and beyond is their responsibility and not the landowners of Todd County.
Correct.
Am I understanding this correctly?
You're correct.
Okay, and Todd County is not responsible for any fiscal dollars on this project? Okay,
No.
I just wanted to clarify that for my own.
No.
Thank you.
You know, and I think the only thing that the county could do is assist them if they need assistance through state representative trying to get more money or whatever. I mean, we can assist the landowners that way, the constituents. So, you know, if there's other funding out there through Lassard Sams and we know it's out there, we can guide them to that. But county as a whole, no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, carried. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there, do I need help with this petition for the legal part of it for these guys to sign? So I can't just go around tomorrow and just say, are you in favor? You know, it's gonna have to be written up properly, right?
Mr. Chair, I believe the draft form that was approved today is in ready-to-sign form. It speaks for itself, and I'm confident that if the benefiting landowners would like it via email, like hard copies, that's something that we could accommodate, just
Okay.
so they can review it.
I just wanna do it right. I don't wanna mislead anybody, you know, when they're signing, whether it's more or less money or whatever. So how do I get this?
Mr. Chair, I can assist in getting that to you. I will have that draft to John. John will review it one final time, and it will be in your hands.
Perfect.
We'll communicate.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, commissioners.
And I also want to thank the county attorney for your assistance on this. Greatly appreciated. Okay, appoint members to the appeals board.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. The background for this is Todd County has received a request for a hearing before the Appeals Board. As stated in the Todd County Unified Environmental Health Ordinance, the Todd County Board of Commissioners is responsible to appoint members to the Appeals Board, which shall consist of 5 members, 2 county commissioners, 2 members of the Todd County Public Health Advisory Committee, and 1 independent registered sanitarian or board-certified medical professional. So with that, Health and Human Services, Catherine McAdams, has some recommendations that she can bring forward to you for that board.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So as Chris just said, 2 commissioners, so of course you guys will decide that. I do have 2 recommendations for Public Health Advisory members. I did reach out to 2 members last week just to see if there was interest. So Ronna Blees, who's chair of our Public Health Advisory, has said she would be willing to assist with this hearing and be on the appeals board, and Jason Polovic, out of the Central Todd County Care Center, who's also on our Public Health Advisory. They both agreed to participate on this board.
Okay. Thank you for that. And we need a couple commissioners too. Excuse me. I'm gonna suggest Commissioner Noska, it's your district.
Take it.
And then Commissioner Becker for having past experience dealing with the sanitation.
Yeah.
Is that okay with
Yep.
Commissioner Denny?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure. Is it 4 total that sit on the board, or is it 5? Is it?
So there's also an independent registered environmental health sanitarian, and I do have a recommendation for that as well, if I can
Okay.
share it. Doug Kretz, I believe his last name, is a sanitarian out of Horizon Public Health out of Douglas County. He's been there 15 years, and they've agreed to participate as an independent registered environmental health sanitarian.
great.
And I can give you the spelling of his last name.
If you would like to email a list of all those today to myself would be good.
I will do that, Denise.
Thank you.
So we do have all the 5 members to sit on the appeal board. Is there any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Water and soil.
Good morning.
Morning.
This morning we have the 2024-25 feedlot program delegation agreement. So I have Deja here to talk about some of the changes and go over it really quick. The MPCA requires that delegated counties develop work plan for how the county will complete the work of the feedlot program over the 2-year period. Document also serves as agreement between the MPCA and the county as the agreement to operate the feedlot program at a county level. Attached as the document shows Todd County's work plan for 24-25. Todd County will receive $91,481.83 in 24 and 25 from MPCA to operate the program. Options are to approve the 2024-2025 feedlot program delegation or deny the delegation agreement. Recommendation is approval of the 2024-2025 feedlot program delegation agreement and work plan as presented. And the drafted delegation agreement is attached there also.
Okay. You guys heard the request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before you move into the planning and zoning,
Yep.
I do believe back on the appointing of that
There
board
was
approval, you didn't have a
motion.
motion or a second. And I just messaged my chief who listens in and she said the same thing.
Yeah.
So I think you totally missed, we should go back to that one, if you wouldn't mind. Sorry, Adam.
Thanks for,
You're okay.
thanks for catching that. So I'll ask for a motion, please.
So moved.
Motion by Noska. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion.
This is for the appeals board,
The
correct?
appeals board that Catherine
Sorry,
Maxon. and
sorry
that
about
was
that, you know,
no,
just getting
it's-
so
I was busy writing the
excited.
names and then I'm like, I looked down and I didn't have a motion or a second.
That's why we have a good auditor treasurer, keep us in mind.
Keep things in
Okay.
order.
Got a
Thank
motion, and a
you.
second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay,
To get to me, where am I at?
now we're down to planning and zoning, correct?
Okay, we're ready?
All right.
Now we're-
Awesome. All right, next is the adoption of the Mississippi River Brainerd Comprehensive Watershed Management Plan. This plan is completed through the One Watershed One Plan process. The plan has been through the public comment periods, has been formally approved by the Policy Committee for Bowser review. The request of the Policy Committee is to have each local board adopt the plan pending Bowser approval. So the options are a motion to adopt the plan pending Bowser approval or a motion to not adopt the plan. Recommendation is adoption of the Mississippi River Brainerd Comprehensive Watershed Management Plan pending approval of the Board of Water and Soil Resources. This went to the policy committee 2 weeks ago, I can't remember, recently, and that was the request, is that they want to try to keep the process going, but also show local support when they go to the Regional Bowser Board for the approval, and accomplish that by having local boards adopt it pending the approval later. That's what we have here.
Okay. Heard the request. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion for adoption of the Mississippi Watershed Plan.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Becker, second by Danny. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, so this is pending approval by Bowser, though?
That's
So,
correct.
Right.
We don't adopt anything until Bowser approves, okay?
Yep.
Yeah, perfect, yep.
Is this
One
the-
more step that we have to take.
Right, right.
Is this the last one
No,
of
No.
all the watersheds?
No,
No.
Crow Wing.
you have
Crow
Crow
Wing's
Wing and then Sartell potentially. We're not going to participate in that planning process, but you can certainly join that grant if you want.
Okay, so there's still like 2 left out of the 5.
Yep, Crow Wing is started, heavy into the planning process. Mississippi Sartell has not started, but when we get to that, you guys will be able to make the decision whether you want to participate in that or not. We don't meet enough of the county or the minimum requirements for required participation. So that'll be an action you guys can take when the planning process comes around.
You may have already taken it too, because this was brought a long time ago.
We brought something, well, we're getting off topic
Yeah.
here. We can talk about it later.
Yeah, but you can look and see if that is, I know our board already, 3 years ago.
Sure.
Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Okay, next is Tammy Brusewitz request for CUP, an application for a conditional use permit to establish a feedlot not to exceed 50 animal units in commercial zoning on parcels 22-00-12900 and 22-00-12700 in Staples Township was submitted on August 4th. The application was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the September 5th, 2023 public hearing. The item was then remanded back to the Planning Commission during the September 19th Commissioners meeting. Planning Commission has then reviewed the application during the October 5th public hearing. Final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the CUP with the conditions below. Options are to grant the permit with conditions, deny the application, or remand it back to the Planning Commission for further review. The recommendation is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and grant the CUP to parcels 22-00-12900 and 22-00-12700 with the following conditions. 1, establishment of vegetative screening on the south and west sides of the proposed feedlot. Screening shall be maintained and provide screening from all public roads. Screening shall be established no later than June 1st, 2024. The feedlot, number 2, the facility operators must maintain registration every 4 years and maintain compliant with the Todd County Ordinance and Minnesota 7020 rules. 3, any future livestock lot or barn construction will require the review for compliance by the feedlot program prior to construction or install. Number 4, conditions of the CUP must be disclosed at any future landowner or real estate transaction. 5, all land application setbacks and Minnesota 7020 rules pertaining to storage and handling of manure must be followed. 6, proposed feedlot shall meet all applicable well setbacks. And 7, that the applicant must abide by other applicable federal, state, and local standards.
Okay, you've heard the request.
Mr. Chair, could you show me a map which shows these 2 parcel numbers on it? That
Sure.
29,100?
Yep, if you scroll
Which 2
down.
parcels is it?
Yep, so.
That's 2,700?
Denise's mouse is right on the 127 right now, and then just to the left-hand side down a little bit is the 22-00-129. So when we started this whole process, originally that feedlot was gonna encompass a larger area, and then looking at setbacks and such, they had to really narrow it down. But they wanted to get rid of that separate parcel anyway, so that one actually doesn't exist anymore. 12900 has been combined with the 12700, but it was part of the application originally, because at the time they were separate.
Okay, then if I could, we're giving this a feedlot and it's a kind of a odd shape and it has to be fenced, you said? Can they do grazing on the rest of the land?
Yes, as long as it doesn't create, and jump in, Deja, if I misspeak, but as long as it does not create a feedlot condition, would not meet the definition of a feedlot, you can graze. You can graze. It has to be maintained in sufficient
Even on
vegetation.
commercial land? 'Cause
Yep,
it's not-
there's no
you're not-
standards
you're
for
not changing the
grazing.
zoning at
Right,
all.
right.
Okay, then my next question is, right now we're talking a cow-calf unit type deal, but a feedlot doesn't say particular that it has to stay with that species of animals, correct?
No, it can switch to a
So
different
if they would
species.
switch to hogs, they could have 1,000 hogs on that little piece of feedlot.
They'd have to be reviewed and looked at through the
It would be
feedlot
reviewed and
program.
looked at?
Yeah, they can't just automatically, a change of species is even through ordinance is a requirement of inspection and looked at through the feedlot program. May not, depending on the size of the operation, would not necessarily need a CUP hearing
But
again.
regardless, they could never exceed that 50 animal unit standard.
Right.
Obviously, more number of hog head count wise would be more than a cow calf pair.
Oh, yeah,
But the
absolutely.
total number, whatever that animal unit count is, can never exceed 50 animal units.
Right. Thank you.
I believe, Randy, I believe we spoke maybe about the fencing or the visual screen establishment. And I guess my recommendation would be, I know this is set as part of the CUP, so it has to be maintained for the life of the CUP, the visible screening. But can we require that they work with our Soil and Water Conservation District to write a plan for that? So they're planting the correct species and the correct soil types, and it's actually going to function as desired?
We can approve the plan. We can review and approve a plan.
Right. Thank you. If I may, Mr. Chair, I had a conversation with Lou last week, one day, about that condition. So in his consideration, I had, the conditions I read this morning originally were what the planning commission recommended for approval. So with Lou's concerns on condition number 1, I just added the statement definitively, just says it shall be maintained for the life of the feedlot. Just that clear statement that the screening has to be in place. And then the addition of a second, of another condition that this tree screening plan shall be submitted to the Soil and Water Conservation District and approved prior to the tree plantings. And if we need to, I can read through all of them again before you guys are ready to move on.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the fence is not on the 7 that are listed on here that we talked about. We talked about it was be enclosed by a fence or
Right.
or the feedlot area, because it's such a unique shape of a feedlot, because so much of it's would be out of compliance.
Right,
And
that was,
that's not added as a condition. Could that be added?
it could be added. The reason we got to the condition we got to is the planning commission looked at and thought about feedlots across the county and felt we don't really screen feedlots of this size anywhere. And the applicants were agreeable and totally on board to some vegetative screening requirements. And the planning commission felt that was more than adequate in comparison to when we look at other feedlots around the county wide. So that part was removed and just required that vegetative screening be required and that it be established by a certain date. So they have a cutoff date of, you have till then, after that, you'd be out of compliance with your CUP.
Yeah. You've got to admit, this isn't a normal feedlot. I wouldn't be having any discussion if it was just a normal feedlot. But it is a unique feedlot, being the location of it and being that it is on commercial land. And it is all on, pretty much all on commercial land, and everything around it is R2, which is absolutely no animals at all. So I think it is a unique feedlot.
It is unique. The Planning and Zoning Commission, we decided as a group that we'd rather have the natural vegetative screen than a steel metal barrier around everything. A lot more appeasing to the public eye than a tin windbreak, if you will. But also there was a safety concern with State Highway 210 there. If visibility would be an issue with the steel windbreak barrier too. So, but yeah, they're more than agreeable to work with everybody on getting something planted right away.
Well, my concern is we're going commercial, and we have a lot of commercial running up and down 71. Okay, so now are we gonna start allowing anybody with commercial property along 71 to start having cattle? Because it's commercial?
They would
So-
have to go through the same process, apply for the CUP, and they could not exceed 50 animal units.
But if you're going on like Lake Osakis and you wanna go from ag, you gotta rezone it to, lake shore, if you're within 1,000 feet of the lake. So I mean, you're requiring them to rezone it from ag to lake shore. So, why wasn't this rezoned from commercial to ag? If you're gonna allow a feedlot, then it's ag. I'm not against farming, okay? I'm just trying to figure out why we're allowing animals in commercial. And if the board has to change, if the board has to change that ordinance, we'll have to change it.
Sure. Sorry, go ahead first.
No, go
Okay.
ahead.
Mr. Chair, if I can answer that, there was two reasons ultimately. First, the commercial zone abuts nothing but residential too. So rezoning to an agricultural district would create a spot zone. Our comprehensive plan has a clear statement about discouraging the creation of spot zones. Second reason is because the ordinance allows it. The ordinance is clear that up to 50 animal units with a conditional use permit is allowed. Now, to your concern, I think you're exactly right. If this is something that needs to be amended, that's what it needs to be, is amended. As of the moment right now, this is allowed by conditional use in our ordinance.
So how far is the church from this proposed feedlot?
I don't know that right off the top of my head, but it was more than what the minimum setback requirement is.
Half
That
mile,
was the
quarter mile?
reason that it got shrunk down in size, is because originally the plan did not meet the setback. So they shrunk it down, moving that, I think, western boundary to the east so that it met the setback to churches, parks. The city was never an issue, but all those setbacks are now being met because of the amendment to what their original plan was.
Mr. Chair, if I.
Yep.
Now, and on this one too, my consideration is if we were to rezone, say we rezone something like this, then it offers them more than 50 animal units, does it not?
It would.
They could actually go way above and beyond. So
Right.
at this point, they're limited to 50. So, if we're concerned about too many or the smells, sounds of agriculture, I mean, at least it's only 50.
Like sounds and
It's not-
smells?
It's not as many as it could be if it were zoned agriculturally.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Also, in that consideration, in this case, when you're looking at changing the commercial zone, in the future, you just need to check how many feedlots we do have in commercial zone, because we do have others in the commercial zones.
Okay.
So it could impact them. This is not the only one.
All right. I guess
Chair.
we need a motion on this.
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Motion by Danny. Is there a second?
I'll second, but I believe, Tim, can we make a motion to accept it with
Oh,
the-
sorry, with the
altered conditions?
Yeah, can I ask that clarifying question? I read those first two conditions. Do you want me to run through what I believe the conditions exist at right now, so we're all on the same page? Okay, so what I believe they are right now is one, establishment of vegetative screening on the south and west sides of the proposed feedlot. The screening shall be maintained to provide screening from all public roads. Screening shall be established no later than June 1st, 2024, and shall be maintained for the life of the feedlot. Two, screening plans shall be submitted to Soil and Water Conservation District and improved prior to the planting of trees. Three, facility owners must maintain registration every 4 years and remain compliant with the Todd County Ordinance and Minnesota 7020 rules. Four, any future livestock lot or barn construction will be required to review for compliance by the feedlot program prior to construction or install. Five, the conditions of the CUP must be disclosed to any future landowners or real estate transactions. Six, all land application setbacks in Minnesota 7220 rules pertaining to the storage and handling manure must be followed. Seven, proposed feedlot shall meet all applicable well setbacks. And eight, the applicant must abide by all their applicable federal, state, and local standards. I believe that's what we have at the moment.
Still making, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, did you read number 3 about the barn construction?
I don't know, I maybe got goofed up here. something must have got goofed up there. I did not read that. So I can go back there. We have the first one, second one. 3 would be the future livestock ladder barn construction will be required to review for compliance by the feedlot program. 4, the conditions of the CUP must be disclosed in any transaction. 5, land application setbacks and 70-20 rules be followed. 6, that this would now be 7, proposed feedlot shall maintain all applicable well setbacks. And 8, the applicant must abide by all their applicable federal, state, and local standards.
Okay, everybody got that?
So I'll make the new motion with the 8 recommendations with the added one now, so.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. Motion by Denny, second by Nazca. Any further discussion? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Nazca?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
No, location. All right.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the next one.
Okay, next is the Elam Lutheran Church Cemetery CUP. An application for a conditional use permit was received on August 31st, 2023 for an expansion to an existing cemetery on parcel 10-400-1600 in Gordon Township in AF2 zoning. This application was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the October 5th public hearing. Final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the CUP with the conditions below. So the options are to grant the CUP with the conditions, deny the CUP, or remand it back to the Planning Commission. Recommendation is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and grant the CUP at parcel 10-400-1600 for the expansion of existing cemetery with the following conditions. That one, that the applicant shall remain compliant with applicable federal, state, or local, state, and federal regulations related to the operation of a cemetery. And 2, they maintain a list of individuals buried in the exact location within the cemetery. And 3, cemetery plots must be completely fenced off from the boundary, with the boundaries clearly identified. Prior to establishment of grave sites, all burial sites must remain within inside this fenced area.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
By Nazca. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
All right, all energy solar request for CUP. The application for a conditional use permit was received on September 5th, 2023 to establish a ground-mounted solar PV array on parcel 15001900 in Leslie Township in AF2 zoning. Application was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the October 5th public hearing. The final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the CUPD with the conditions below. Options are to grant the CUP with the conditions, deny the CUP, or amend it back to the Planning Commission. Recommendation is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and grant the CUP to parcel 15001900 to establish a ground-mounted solar PV array with the following conditions. 1, applicant must obtain permitting and/or licensing from additional governmental agencies as necessary. 2, submission of an interconnection agreement with the electric service provider prior to issuance of a land use permit. 3, construction of additional solar arrays shall require the review of the Planning Commission. And 4, written statement to be received from the owner or the providing company containing plan for legal disposal of panels.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is big enough solar system that they have to contact for a sale of the electricity then? I mean, usually
right.
we've just approved them for home use.
This, from the start, was always going to be interconnected with the electric grid. That's why it's going through this CUP process, because it really meets our definition of a community solar energy. In order to avoid the CUP process, it can only be connected for use to the primary use of the property.
Okay.
So they are connecting to the grid, which is a requirement of almost any solar nowadays. That's just how it is.
Okay. And then my next question is, we've got a solar plan that you guys have been working on.
Mm-hmm.
When is that coming to the board?
You'll see it at the work session today.
Awesome.
Okay. Any other discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Okay. Bergman, request for rezoning. An application for rezoning of parcels 1700-16800, 1700-16801, and 1700-19800 in Little Sauk Township from recreational development shoreline to AF2 zoning was submitted on September 7th. This application was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the October 5th public hearing. Final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the rezone with the conditions below. Options are to grant the rezone with the proposed conditions, deny the rezone, or remand it back to the Planning Commission for further consideration. Recommendation is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and grant the rezones to parcel 1700-16800, 1700-16801, and 1700-19800 from recreational development shoreline to AF2 with the following conditions. 1, there will be from time to time the sight, sounds, and smells associated with the operation of farming. Landowners shall abide by section 9.11E of the Todd County Planning and Zoning Ordinance. 2, all future animal life feedlots must abide by Minnesota Rule 7020 and Todd County Ordinance section 911. 3, landowner must obtain permitting from other governmental agencies, including but not limited to the Sauk River Watershed District. And 4, the applicant must abide by all their applicable federal, state, and local standards.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Second by Danny. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So this is being rezoned from shoreline to ag.
Right.
So are they planning a feedlot on that piece of property?
I don't know what their plans are at all. This was just looked at as for the rezone purposes. That's something that we'd have to have an application on to know specifically what their plans are for the future. I know for a while they were just trying to sell that piece. So I don't know what their ultimate intentions are with the plans for the rezone.
Okay.
And this is how far from, what is that, Maple Lake?
That's Maple Lake. So this is the area greater than 1,000 feet from the lake. That shoreline designation is a DNR designation. We do not have the right to change that. They previously had applied to rezone it from AF1 to shoreline further than 1,000 feet. Now they're going to go back to AF2, 1,000 feet or greater, the rest of the parcels there and the neighboring one.
I'm sure my phone will ring on this one.
He made the comment, if I may, Mr. Chair, he made the comment during the meeting was to protect it from developing many homes and just keeping it as the 2 homes per that section or parcel. That was his rebuttal when it came to discussion that night. So he just wanted to keep it that way.
Okay.
All right. Got a motion by Danny, second by Nazca. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. All right. 12-6.
Okay. Here is the review of conditional use permit number C 201309108858. So during the October 5th, 2023 Planning Commission public hearing, conditional use permit number C 201309105585 was reviewed for failure to abide by the conditions of the permit. Planning Commission heard public comments and developed a recommendation to revoke the permit based on the findings of fact. Options are to revoke the permit based on the findings, allow a continuation of the permit, or to allow a continuation of the permit with a review date for compliance. Recommendation is to adopt the recommendation of the Planning Commission and revoke the CUP number C 201309105585 based on the following findings. 1, that the conditional use permit C 201309105585 was issued on October 15th, 2023. Notice was issued on July 25th, 2023 that the conditions of the permit were not being met and the site must come into compliance within 30 days from receipt of the notice. September 1st, 2023, an on-site visit was conducted with the property owner to discuss the letter and progress towards coming into compliance. Additional notice was sent on September 7th, 2023 that the site had not achieved compliance and that the CUP would be reviewed during the October 5th Planning Commission meeting. The CUP states that the 10-foot perimeter fence must be constructed around the site. This is backed up by a height statement in the CUP application submitted on October 8th, 2023. The fence is measured is less than 9 feet in height. Condition 1 states that the perimeter fence must be set back 25 feet, must meet a 25-foot setback from the southern property boundary. Approximately 57 feet along the western portion of the southern line is not meeting the 25-foot setback from the southern line. Condition 2 states that along the southern line between the property boundary and the 25-foot offset fence, trees should be planted for screening of the fence and that the tree plan shall be approved by planning and zoning. Trees for screening have never been planted, nor is there evidence that the tree plan was ever presented to the planning and zoning office. And condition number 3 states that the applicant must notify planning and zoning when the MPCA stormwater permit is received and if it is ever revoked. In a conversation with MPCA on 10/4/23 revealed that the MPCA industrial stormwater permitting had expired on March 31st, 2020.
Okay, you've heard the request. Do we want to open it up for discussion?
Yeah, I've got something for you. So if we were to revoke this, Adam, what's the process for them if they come into compliance to get it back?
So if it's revoked today, in a nutshell, it's as if the CUP never happened. A landowner would have the opportunity to reapply and start from the beginning to go through the process of review and everything, just fresh start.
Okay.
County Attorney, do you have some legal opinion for us?
A couple of things, Mr. Chair. I would encourage the board and the record to defer.
John, your mic is really bad.
Yes. Check. Thank you. They're nice. Adam, a couple times as you were reciting the conditions, you said 2023 instead of 2013. I think just for clarity purposes, I would defer to the written record just for the chronology of this. Second, one point of clarification. Shannon, or Highway 27 owns 2 parcels, one ending 8601, one ending 8500. Does this proposed revocation impact only 8601, or would it be both parcels owned by Highway 27?
Great question. It's only the 8601 parcel. That was the only parcel identified in the CUP and in the application. So I guess the main site, the 8500 parcel, is not up for consideration today.
Thank you. With that clarification, yes, I have reviewed this at length. And so, it looks like someone from the audience has his hand raised. But as far as my legal opinion, Mr. Chair, I stand by the proposal.
For revoke. Yep, okay. Shannon?
Yes, I have already applied to amend this last order on the December 7th planning and zoning meeting to redo it because of the tree planting and stuff like that. It's just not feasible for the area. And like I said earlier, it's a couple thousand feet away from my water supply, and I'd have to truck water over there every day to plant trees. And the fence should have been allowed to be put on the line in the first place, right on the property line. And it's just, I'm trying to get it amended so I can redo it. And like I said, it's on December 7th meeting. And I do not need a stormwater runoff permit for this property. I have nothing on it. It's bare land. I don't know where they're getting this stormwater runoff permit. Like I said, it's bare land. There's trees that were growing out there when I cleaned this property up, when I bought it, when I first purchased it. I hauled 2 semi-loads of tires off of it, cleaned it up. There's a bunch of old farm machinery and everything from Long Prairie Machinery when they used to own it. And now it's all cleaned up, and there was trees out there growing when I cleaned this up that I left there, and they're no taller than what they were 8 years ago or whatever. I mean, they're just not gonna grow. I don't understand how it's sandy soil. There's gravel pits all the way along 71 on that side. I mean, it's sand. It's just something that needs to be amended. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay. Any further discussion amongst the board?
I've got a question, Mr. Chair. Adam? Now, these conditions, when the CUP was put into place, all of these conditions that are here were in that conditional use permit at the time?
There was, I believe, only 4. I can bring those up here a second.
I'm just curious because, I mean, if condition 3 states that they must notify planning and zoning when the stormwater permit is received, if that was part of the CUP originally, then must have been agreed upon by whoever applied for the CUP, if it's in there. I mean, things like that, if they were agreed upon, that's kind of the responsibility.
You know, when the planning commission puts conditions on CUPs and then it comes to the county board and we approve those conditions, we expect the people that are applying for that CUP to follow those requested conditions and make sure that the conditions are met. And, you know, this goes back to 2013 and the conditions weren't met. So, I mean, and it all started last spring when Commissioner Erickson and myself got a call. So rules are rules. And the county, we put those ordinances in effect and you gotta follow damn ordinances or the conditions. And if we're not doing it, why have any rules? Let's just let people do what the hell they want, so. You know, I like to have people speak, but you guys gotta control it. So, Carrie, I'm gonna let you go first and then Shannon, you can follow up.
On the tree planting, I moved in there 5 years ago. I've got a cottonwood tree. It's right on I have 2 lots, so it's right about 10 feet off of the property line. I planted a cottonwood there the year I moved in and it's over 20 feet tall right now.
Okay. Shannon?
Probably got water there to water it too, you know, I mean, if you got water there, it's fine. Also, when, this order was originally done, a year later, my shop burned down. I was already in the process of putting my fence up and everything. I had it about 3/4 done. My shop burned down, and I understand that the permit only lasts 3 years, and I never got back at it. That I couldn't control. I didn't have the money at the time. I lost my ass on the shop fire and everything, so it wasn't much I could do about it at the time. And now they're saying that, well, that's why I'm trying to get this amended and get it straightened out so that I can fix things.
And I think we're trying to end it, so.
Well, I agree. I'd like to see that too.
Right.
I'd like to get things back in order and like I said, I'm not even using it.
And I want people to know too, this board is not anti-business either. And I've had that comment made to me and we're not anti-business. We just want to make sure when we issue a CUP with conditions, that the conditions are followed. So.
Chair, may I make a comment to that end?
Yep.
As you may recall, we've talked in the past about potential liability for the county if we issue these CUPs and they're not followed and then something happens because of that neglect or that negligence. So that's another consideration that I'd ask the board to keep in mind in cases like this going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, board. You've heard everything. Do we have a motion? And explain your motion.
Well, I'll move to honor the planning commission's recommendations and revoke, because I think that in Mr. Hinnenkamp's, in his defense, it maybe does need to be reviewed, and a new COP might be the best option here. You know, to start over and get something with conditions that are actually attainable.
Okay.
You know, if this isn't attainable, then there's no reason the conditions that the COP should exist.
All right, so we have a motion from Commissioner Noska. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Becker. Any further discussion? If not, everybody in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Little change in topic here. We're, we're here for a resolution establishing support for seeking funding from MDH for Minnesota Expanding Jail Practices Learning Community. So MDH is seeking applications from jails and community partners to actively participate in the Minnesota Expanding Model Jails Practices Learning Community. The grant specifically that we're looking at is expanding model jail practices to support children of incarcerated parents and to implement these model jail practices and programs that support children of incarcerated parents and their families. The overall expected impact of this initiative is to improve the health and well-being of children, youth, and families impacted by parental incarceration. So the overall goals, just to expand on that, is to reduce the trauma that children face when they have an incarcerated parent. Studies have shown that children of incarcerated parents have increased mental health issues, substance use issues, and then poor educational outcomes. So there are things that we can do here at a county level to remove those barriers for better parent-child communication while an individual is incarcerated, because even though they are incarcerated, they still are parents and they still want to parent their children. So some of the things that we're looking at doing through this grant are pretty easy things. Part of it is in our family visitation room, or well, not our family visitation room, but our visitation room is to add paint, carpet, some books, things on the walls to make it more kid-friendly. Part of that, some of that we've read is that duplicate books so the incarcerated parent can read to their kids, having plain clothing correctional officer explain the process to kids, what it's gonna look like, what they can do with their parent. Another piece of it that we have found is that we could use our court holding room, make that more kid-friendly, take the table out of there, add paint. We have a local artist that's willing to paint a mural on the walls, have more of that cultural diversity added into those murals, have toys there, things that the parents can interact. Our hope is that we can do in-person visitations so kids can see their parents. If they have a child protection plan, that they can follow through with that plan while they're in jail, that's not a barrier to working on that plan. Things for the incarcerated parent that they can do while they're in jail. We have an evidence-based program that MDH can train us on, Parenting Inside Out or Circle of Security. And so they can be working on that in the jail with our comprehensive reentry social worker. They get to graduate from the program, and it doesn't have to be just for parents. If someone is an expecting parent or hoping to be a parent, a grandparent of a child, they can all benefit from this curriculum. And then with the tablets that the inmates have, we're hoping to get an app on there where they can contact their child. So if the child's having a rough day or they just want to talk to their parent or school conferences, that they can still be a part of the child's life even though they're not there. And we're hoping too that that will reduce, like I said, the trauma, but that they know that their parent is okay, because it's scary for them that they're in jail and they don't get to see them, they don't know if they're safe, what's going on with them. So just simple things like that that we're hoping to be able to do. Do you guys want to mention anything?
I guess my biggest support is, I come from the child protection realm, and when we have parents that are incarcerated, you know, we tell them to engage in any programming that they can, and by adopting this model, we have a program that they actually can be a part of. And then we can also limit some of that trauma. You know, when parents are released, the kids might not have seen their parent for months, and by having this program, we could have visitation the entire time. So we maintain that bond with kids, so they're not coming out and afraid of what's gonna happen after that, so.
Yep, and this is a change from, you know, a punitive model of they're incarcerated, they do their time, and they get out. This is more of that rehabilitation model. The pendulum is changing into the state to more of a rehabilitation. Right now, there's 5 counties that are working on this model. Eventually, we will have to do these changes, but we're hoping that we can do those now, work with other counties that are currently doing that, get more ideas. And this plan that we're proposing isn't just, this is all we're gonna do. I'm thinking this will help to expand other ideas that come up, more innovative ideas, working with other agencies, working with corrections, Wellness in the Woods with their peer support, wellness recovery plans, and other community agencies, just to improve what we can do for kids to lessen that impact of the trauma.
Okay.
You know, Mr. Chair, I know, Mike, we've talked about this at facilities also, and you were talking about the room that would work for this.
That's right, Commissioner. Today we have a court holding room. That's a nice size. Through the COVID pandemic, that room isn't being utilized nearly as often as it is. That room, if approved and used by Health and Human Services and our staff, will be a multi-purpose room. It'll be used for this visitation purpose, but it'll still be used for court holding during trials and that kind of thing.
Great. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sheriff Allen, two things. One, if the court holding room isn't available for this type of visitation, the alternative is marching kids through the jail. Isn't that right?
That is correct. Today, per DOC regulations, juveniles can't be in the jail facility and see other inmates. So if we arrest a 16-year-old, for example, they have to be held in the holding area, so they can't be seen by any other inmates. That and with the institutional look of our facility, like every other jail facility, we want to create an environment for that juvenile in this situation to go into a facility where it doesn't look so sterile and institutionalized. We want it to be a more friendly environment to try to get that connection between parent and child back, or started if it hasn't started.
Thanks. The second thing is using the court holding room. I mean, what's in there now is basically a large picnic table, right? And it's my understanding that there is DOC-approved furniture, substantial stuff that would be better for families to use. Because wouldn't you agree that right now the court holding room is a pretty spooky looking place with that big heavy door and the bare walls?
It is very institutionalized. I mean, it's a big square concrete box with a metal door. Picnic table's metal. Everything is heavy. Our thought process was to remove that picnic table, put some carpet, very industrial carpet, so it's easy to clean on the floor. DOC does have some requirements for inmates in holding cells and things as far as furniture, so we would be using DOC-regulated furniture that doesn't look so institutional. There's big, large, heavy chairs that can't be moved. That's in other facilities now. This is a very unique and interesting plan that the DOC's been pushing for years. If we can get ahead of it, and if we can see this change, hopefully we won't see the 2 or 3 generation families being incarcerated if we can at least start here. I know there's going to be a lot more that has to be done. That being said, this is still a jail. That holding cell is in the control of the sheriff's office, and so it'll still be used and monitored by our staff because it is a secured facility. It's just going to be more child-friendly for this purpose.
And I might add too that all court proceedings take precedence over the visitation, so there will be a schedule for that.
Okay, Mr. Chair. The only other thing I have to add is, as is written, it says expanding jail practices. Well, most people are going to see expanding jail, and we're not expanding the jail. We're just using one of the rooms within the jail to use it within this.
That is correct, Commissioner, absolutely.
Yeah, and
historically,
as you read this, it's going to be, you're building on the jail, and we're not.
No, that's not. We're just repurposing a room. That is
a room.
Historically, our entities have been different. The sheriff's office and the jail had their own purpose. Health and Human Services had their purpose. Probation had their purpose. We're kind of melding us a little bit now, which is going to, I think, be the common practice for years to come. We just want to be kind of at the leading edge of that.
Mr. Chair, if I could just clarify a little bit, in looking at the actual grant that you're applying for, I think that's why you use that language, because it is a resolution establishing support for seeking funding from MDH for Minnesota Expanding Model Jail Practices Learning Community.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we're stuck with that wording, but that is a very good point.
you know, just so, I'm sure you'll have questions about how we're expanding the jail, but I think I continue to read on.
Yeah, no, we're fortunate here at our county that we do have a space that we can repurpose and utilize it for good.
Right. So will they allow us to put family-oriented murals on the wall?
Yep, yes, they will, Commissioner. As long as it remains to be a safe and secure portion of our facility.
Yeah.
So there won't be, it's not like we're gonna have items that would be potentially harmful. That's why we would have the DOC regulated chairs and tables that have weight to them so they can't be moved.
Okay.
Everything would be in compliance with Department of Corrections, and we've had that discussion. I've probably been more aggressive on that than maybe some would like, but it's still part of our facility.
Yep.
And it still has to be maintained as a jail facility. It'll just be repurposed.
Okay.
And that's why we went with the mural too. We can't have things hanging on the walls, and we'll just bring the toys, books, art supplies in and out.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, one last point of clarification. Sheriff Fallon, you talked with Judge Benson about this.
I did. When this plan first came to me, like many plans in facilities like ours, you expect it to take a very long time for everything to come into fruition. That's not been the case here. We've got some very motivated people with a very good plan. So in talking with the county attorney's office, with Judge Benson, everybody's on board with this. And with the cost, if we get this grant, it'll be virtually no cost to the county to try this program. Worst case scenario, we repaint the walls and put the picnic table back.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win if it helps. If not, we go back to the institutional look.
Okay. All right. Other discussion? I'm looking for a motion, please.
I will make that motion
Motion by Commissioner
in
Becker.
support. Yes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Denny. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. We are here today to request to hire a temporary eligibility worker. So a little background is that the state of Minnesota Department of Human Services has provided one-time state funding to support county work processing medical assistance eligibility in the resumption of MA eligibility renewals, which were previously paused for the last 3 years due to COVID-19 emergency. Funds must be used to support MA eligibility renewals and may be used for hiring and training staff to address staffing needs created by this additional work. So the options would be to approve the HHS request to hire a temporary eligibility worker or to not approve. And our recommendation would be that the Todd County Board of Commissioners approves the following by motion to approve the HHS request to hire a temporary eligibility worker.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Noska. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you.
Administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a board action today to accept the resignation and retirement of the county coordinator. And the background for this is a notice of intent to retire and resign position of county coordinator has been submitted on October 9th of 2023 in an effort to provide transition period and allow for recruitment of a successor coordinator. The last date of employment for Chris Pelzer is February 2nd, 2024. So the options are to accept the resignation of Chris Pelzer, County Coordinator, with the last date of employment as February 2nd, 2024, allowing for a transition period for recruitment of a successor coordinator, or to not accept, and the recommendation is to accept.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Nazca, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion? I just want to thank you, Chris. You're going to be here for another 3-4 months, but thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. I did share this with department heads on last Wednesday at our department head meeting, and I've been with the county for over 27 years, and I've served in a couple of different roles. As MIS director, I've been your interim coordinator twice, and then your full-time coordinator for the past almost 4 years. This has been the absolute most difficult role and challenging role. Doing this in the hit of a pandemic, very, very challenging. It has also been one of the most rewarding things that I have done, and it is absolutely due to the great people here. The staff we have are amazing.
Yeah, thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Oppose? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, the next topic that we have is county coordinator recruitment. So this is to discuss the next steps in recruitment for a county coordinator. Supporting documentation includes job description and a proposed timeline for recruiting. So I have put together for the board just a proposed couple of different timelines for you. Yeah, that's a little bit further down. Yeah. So there's a couple of different timelines, and this kind of speaks also to the job description and what you might want to review with that. But if the board chooses to move forward with recruitment and utilize the job description that is currently in place, I have the first option timeline, which would allow us to post for this position, allow that posting to be open for a month, post it through AMC, LMC, and a bunch of different other places, and then follow through the steps of conducting first round video interviews, and then moving forward with interviews in person with the finalist. And the reason why you would have that video interview is because the names of candidates do not become public until they're finalists. So we do that little extra step of video. And then hopefully, if everything falls into line, and this is an extremely aggressive timeline, and you'd have to stick to it, we would have somebody potentially on board February 5th. If the board chose to just take a little bit of time and consider that job description, that delays it by about 2 weeks. And again, this is really aggressive, and we'd want to really stick to those timelines if you wanted to meet that February timeframe.
Okay. Discussion?
I guess I'm more in favor of option 2. I think we've got to take the time and do this right. I mean, looking for a new coordinator takes a lot, and I think with all of us being 2 new ones, and we have a 3rd commissioner coming on in November, yeah, I think that we just got to take the time to look things over.
Okay. Further discussion? So do we need a motion on option 2?
Mr. Chair, I would recommend that you make a motion on however you want to move forward, because this is what's going to allow us to eventually post for this position.
Okay.
So I didn't put those in there because I felt there would be some discussion.
All right.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a point of clarification? Will the class and comp study regarding salary impact what's ultimately offered for this position? Because I think that might be a valuable consideration. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, at this time, as we go through our class and comp study, when that study is completed, that may impact that salary range. We are months away from that being completed.
Okay. So, wishes? You gonna make that a motion?
I can make that a motion to go with option 2. I think with the new commissioner coming on, and he probably won't be on till in December.
So, Mr. Chair, with option 2 on there, what that means is that on November 7th, you would then be taking action to approve the job description and authorizing the posting for the position. So what this allows you is a couple of weeks for you to review that job description, come back with any changes at that next board meeting.
Okay.
Does option 2 affect you at all? I mean, it says coordinator start dates in 2/19, but you're done 2/2, and that's, okay, just want to make sure we weren't implying you need to hang around or all that. Get out of here.
And
But
Mr.
we have to have someone in the interim then.
You could, or you could allow just that little bit of time to just kind of be vacant. I just would suggest to you as a board, if you're looking to make changes to that job description, I think one of your best avenues would be to reach out to your department leaders. I mean, they would be able to tell you, without coming to me, they'd be able to tell you what has worked over the last 4 years and what hasn't. I think that's a good route for you to take.
Okay. So
And I
is it-
think also within that time frame, I mean, you could always call a special meeting to move things and to change dates, you know, depending upon how many candidates we have.
Okay.
How many, you know, interviews we need. I mean, it still can fluctuate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Becker for option 2. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Second by Danny. Discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Standing reports, auditor treasurer.
We just wrapped up, yesterday was tax day, so we're getting that balanced and sent over. We've been running to the bank daily, so that's a good thing. And then just to update you on election status, I just thought I'd come in with the absentee ballots. Right now, currently, just for our Commissioner 3 race, just for absentee ballots, we've received, we've sent out 11 absentee ballots and we've received 9 back. So that's kind of a little slow, but that's all right. And then for absentee, because we are the Burrillville School District, and we are handling their AB, I know I've been getting a lot of calls, so I thought I'd list that out as well today. So for 787's referendum, we've sent out 61 ballots and we received 38 of them back already. So that's just a little update on elections that are going around. We do have other school elections, but we are not the AB board for those, so I don't have the numbers for those. That's all I have to report today. Thank you.
Okay, county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My office is still down, an assistant county attorney. I'm hoping that that situation will resolve itself sometime soon, as it's caused me to have to wear many hats, but it's fine. Nothing else really to report. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners report. Commissioner Denny?
Yep. This week, or I guess last 2 weeks, it was business as usual at the meetings. Had a Amana Rural County's meeting. My Hilltop one was canceled. Had Todd County Solid Waste Committee meeting with Commissioner Newman. And it was a good meeting, very informative about our plans moving forward, and then also with recycling was new proposed ideas with that. Other than that, I had nothing.
Okay, Commissioner Becker?
Yeah. On the 9th, we had personnel. On the 11th, we had department head and facilities. On the 12th, we had the town meeting with the cannabis ordinance. On the 12th, we had soil and water, and that was their meeting that they held at West Union, which was interesting, never been there before, to, what was it, sidewalk?
Yeah, sidewalks.
So, and then also on the 12th, we had Rainbow Rider.
Good. Commissioner Denny?
Oh,
Or I mean, Commissioner Noska, sorry. I was looking right at you, too.
all right, do it again.
That's how my day's been going. Sorry.
No problem, Randy. So, on the 9th, we met Todd County Development Corporation. Some good news, the city of Staples received a $948,000 small cities HUD grant. So for improvements of low-income housing and weatherization things, city of Staples, they've been doing a good job trying to, benefit their citizens and trying to get some of the things cleaned up there. Also in the process of recruitment for the next Rick Utek. So, his retirement's coming up, so I think we've got a pretty good candidate, and things are looking up.
Good.
Other than that, just a few other meetings, but nothing worth real mentioning, so.
Okay, good. So I'd like personnel, department head meeting, facilities, discussion on cannabis. We had good discussion on that. Water and soil, solid waste, Rainbow Rider. That's about all I had. And then fighting a cold for last 3-4 days, so. Coordinators report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for administration, we've been dealing with some of that same type of sickness, so we're down a couple of staff, and that's been a little bit challenging, but that will get better, I'm sure, in the next week or two. I've been conducting a lot of interviews, which just takes up a lot of time, but it's really a good thing to get that right fit for the different offices and the different spots that we have need. We are working on a recycling grant with Region 5. Region 5 is willing to write the grant if we provide them information. We're making some really good progress on that and feel that we have a really strong spot for this very competitive grant. Been working on some childcare meetings, having some childcare meetings with Rick Utek, City of Long Prairie also, and some other community members. So that's moving along well, and otherwise just keeping myself pretty busy.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else that needs to come in front of this board? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn for the month of October.
So moved.
Motion by Noska. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion, if none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. We'll start the work session at 1:45.
Tim, I've got that meeting.
removed.
You're good. It's going.
All righty. We will call the Tuesday, October 17th, 2023 Todd County Board of Commissioners work session to order. And I think first on the list is CWP loan program. Adam.
That's correct. So we started this Clean Water Partnership loan. If you remember back in 2020, this money at that time was free to the county, and then we could loan it out to landowners for updating of failing septic systems. We did that at 1.5%. The years went by, and it was coming to an end, and we were allowed to extend that for a year, and I believe we applied for another chunk of money at that time under that same program. Now, that period of time is going to be coming to an end in early spring or late winter, somewhere in there, and so we're prepping to try to continue the program even after this first round expires. So that's what we're here to do today. First is just kind of get the blessing of the board to continue the program and start putting the work into getting that done. Some changes from, excuse me, the first round to now is that MPCA gives that money to the county at 1.5% interest. Not free of interest anymore. So that'll be something that when we make the repayments to the state, it'll be at that little bit of an interest rate. So we will adjust accordingly and increase the interest rate back to the landowners that we're loaning the money to. Our initial intentions here are then to go to 3% to the landowners. The other minor change is that under the previous portion of this, landowners had 10 years to pay that back to the county, and the county had 10 years to pay it back to the state. This is a 7-year term now. So a little bit of interest, shorter term to pay it back. Some highlights from what we've accomplished so far. Sarah putting together this nice little bit of information for me here. So far, we've spent just under $421,000 updating septic systems in Todd County. That's amongst 41 parcels, so that's just a little over $10,000 per user to update the system. Many landowners use this program in conjunction to our low-income cost share program to help supplement the difference of what the system cost was. We got a lot of help from our local contractors in promoting this. They were really a key piece of it. When they had landowners that needed it update and didn't know how to pay for it, they sent them to our office, and that was a huge help in getting the awareness out there. It's been a big help in addressing some of our longstanding violations. I think people were reluctant to do that. It's expensive, and you had that money in pocket to do that. Now there is a local option of pretty low interest to get that accomplished. We've had a lot of positive feedback. It's really gone pretty well. It's a simple program. We can submit the request for reimbursement from the state, have the money in-house in a couple of days, and then turn around and pay the landowners fairly quickly. So ultimately, you can see the RFPs there, similar to the past with those minor changes. We would, with the blessing of the board, we'd get to work on trying to get this organized and see what else needs to come to the board. It would come back for approval at a later date. But just wanted to get that before we got too far along.
Okay. Questions?
And, yeah, Mr. Chair, Adam, is this used just for, is this used for wells too, or not, just sewers?
Only replacement of failing systems. We don't
Okay.
we don't help pay for new systems on new houses or anything. It has to have an existing system that is not passing compliance. Then we'll help
Okay.
fund it.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
is it, what's the current interest payback rate? What are they?
1.5
It's
to the
1.5 that-
landowners.
That landowners or
Yep.
customers would pay is 1.5, and it'll up to 3. It'll go to.
Yeah, it'll go up to 3 for the landowners paying back to the county, and then the county
We'll pay the 1.5.
will pay the 1.5 to the state.
Takes 1.5.
So, and the intention from the start with this was to have that little bit of interest so that we could build the program and eventually not even have to look to the state. We'll just have that money in-house, create our own revolving fund to help landowners out and never have to go to this program, but it takes time to build that program.
I agree with you. It's a great thing to have for people that are out of compliance. I mean, it's an option to put them in a situation where they don't have to cough up $15,000 or $10,000. They can at least get some subsidy there and some help to get it done. I mean, it helps us, helps you with the violations, I'm sure.
Yeah. absolutely. I can't find a lot of negative things to say about the program.
Absolutely, yeah, no,
We
I'm
met with
supportive of it. Yeah.
Denise and Jolene last week to just run it by them, and they're on board again. We got the program set up, so it should be even easier getting this initiated the second time around.
Great. Okay. Any other discussion on that?
No, good program.
Yeah, thank you.
So November 7th?
I doubt we'll have anything ready by then. We have tried to contact the folks at the state. There's been changeover in positions. But we want to meet with them, make sure we get the RFP right, and if there's any updated bonding stuff or whatever, that we just have to get that all. So when we come to you guys, we're ready to roll. So I don't know what the date it will come back, but just wanted to be on the same page that we're pursuing something that you guys are on board for.
Okay, be somewhere down the road. Okay. All right.
Okay, that was what I had there.
Solar.
Barb asked the question during the regular meeting. What was submitted with the board packet is the draft ordinance. I gotta get to the right pages here. So you hopefully had a chance to read through that. I'll remind first some of the concerns. This was way back in May when we talked about this at a work session. Some of the concerns that commissioners had at that time were some setbacks, standards, addressing decommissioning, identifying, clearly what's allowed in what districts, some size limitations for like residential type units, connecting it to the comprehensive plan, look into using of prime farmland versus marginal land for siting these solar sites, some screening requirements, applying other governmental standards, and then potential setbacks from one solar field to another. So this was presented to the Planning Commission. All those items were discussed. Many of them are included in here. Some, as for example, the potential setback requirement from one solar field to another was discussed, and the decision of the Planning Commission was that maybe wasn't the best idea because you're taking these large soil fields and then you're spreading them out, where it maybe be better if they were congregated into a smaller area, because if they want to get multiple megawatts, we're putting 5 megawatts in 5 spots rather than 5 in 1 spot. So that's just one example. So I'll walk through this really quick here. The basic structure or the types of systems did not change. What we did is clarified them, made them clear to match what we see for systems today. So for example, Part B is the types of solar energy systems. That's Part B under the old ordinance, but that it was restrictive to only use for the primary use on the property in which the solar is located. We don't see that. That is not a reality in today's world. There's nobody putting solar up that isn't allowed to connect to the electric grid. So that's why I kicked them into that community solar energy standard, which our standard for community solar energy did not match the state statute. So not to jump ahead too far, but I included that community solar energy statute in the packet for this here. We clarified and made it a little more restrictive between the rooftop, and we identified the ground mounted. You can see all of the standards that run with that there. Identified in shoreline district for ground mounted that they need to be screened from viewing on the lake. Then we get into the community solar energy piece here. That's pretty short. Excuse me. That identifies the statute that I referenced there. So that's not a very long section because the statute addresses what a community solar energy system is. So we're just matching that from the statute. There are a few extra pieces there talking about setbacks and height and different things like that. Solar. One of the big pieces solar farms, to clarify. In here, we identified that solar farms, the recommendation of the Planning Commission, was that they would only be allowed in agriculture or commercial zones, and they require a conditional use permit. Where they are not allowed is in shoreland or other residential districts, that if you're going to put solar energy in a wetland, it needs to abide by WACA rules, any other wetland regulations and stuff out there. So outside of that, not allowed to be placed in a wetland. And the third part was that part about prime farmland, that they wouldn't be allowed within agricultural land identified as prime farmland as identified by the United States Department of Agriculture. So we had that addressed there. A lot of the other standards are very similar to what we previously had, and we split out the decommissioning piece as item 10 there, that the plan, decommissioning plan shall be required to ensure that facilities are properly removed after their useful life. Decommissioning of solar panels must occur in the event that they are not in use for 12 consecutive months after the initial establishment. And then Part B identifies what that plan needs to include. Provisions for removal of all structures and foundations. B, provisions for restoration of the soil and vegetation. C, posting of a bond, letter of credit, or establishment of an escrow account in the amount of $125,000 per megawatt produced to ensure complete decommissioning. And D, that disposal of all structures and or foundations shall abide by all applicable federal, state, and local standards. And the additional standards were pretty standard, looking at neighboring ordinances, and they're similar to what we had previously. So I'll walk through that really fast, but that's why we brought it to the work session here, so we can have a discussion about it, see where you guys are at before we get it too far forward here.
I got a question right away. Prime farmland, how do you define it?
Great question. I had a map made. Doug made that for us. I can send that to you. It is defined in a map of, there's really three, there's prime farmland, not prime, and there's a third one, and it lit it up as green, red, and yellow. So it's in a it's identified in a map that we already had here at the county, and those are based off of USDA's maps.
Is it based off soil type?
I think it's based on a number of conditions. It's soil type, topography, maybe location. I don't know where it all comes from, but there is a definition to that and why that map was created.
You know, because I could see it had changed within the past 10 years with irrigation being such an important part of our landscape that it wasn't 10 years ago, it was, or 20 years ago, it wasn't. And now more of the prime farmland could be the irrigated land. So it would be something very interesting to look at how the definition is prime.
Interesting to look at our current CUPs for solar.
Yeah.
Where they fall, if they actually fall on prime farmland or not. I mean, just to see where that ends up.
That's a great point. We haven't had any solar farms with a conditional use. So that's where this applies. It's just those large scale ones. The only thing, at least in my time and that I'm aware of, have been the smaller residential.
That actually would be regulated by that at this point anyway. So, okay.
Yeah. Adam, has anybody ever applied or made note that they would be applying for?
There was one large, actually I used that, I don't know how big it actually was, that was going to be proposed in Wadena County, and the southern portion of it would come down into Stowe Prairie.
Okay.
I talked with Stowe Prairie Township this morning about a different issue, and they had mentioned that those folks never ended up showing up at a township meeting to talk with them. And when I talked with them, it was over a year ago.
Okay.
So I don't know if that got scrapped or what the story is, because we had met with them twice and directed them to the township, and the township clerk had no knowledge of that ever happening. So I don't know if that's out the door or what the story is there, but that's the only one that's ever been even remotely proposed in Todd County at this point.
So Commissioner Denny and I sit on the Solid Waste Facility Committee, and, you know, we've really never discussed this as far as disposal or.
Well, Adam, you have that in there, but as far as company taking back damaged panels.
There's not anything in the ordinance, the draft ordinance itself. I think we've had that discussion numerous times. Related to the residential ones about how do they actually get rid of them when they're at their end of their useful life. And many of the manufacturers do take components back, and a lot of them have recyclable components too.
Sure, yeah.
So what if those outfits go wheels up?
Right, and that's where in these larger ones, the decommissioning plan, or the bond or letter of credit or whatever is there to ensure that we have access to that fund in order to make sure they're disposed of properly. If it were to fall in the county's lap, which I hope that would never happen, but even if the landowners or ourselves, there's access to the funds to get that accomplished.
Okay. Right, any other discussion on this?
Mr. Chair, just for the record, the term prime farmland is defined in federal statute. If there are any statute nerds out there like me, 7 CFR Part 657 has a lengthy definition of what prime farmlands are and are not.
Oh, interesting.
Thank you.
And that's, what was that numbers
Yeah.
that referred to as,
CFR stands for Code of Federal Regulations. It'd be
Okay.
Chapter 7, so 7 CFR Part 657.
okay.
What happens is when it goes from the Code of Federal Regulations, it eventually gets codified in the US Code or USC. So it's an easy place to find it.
So one other thing for consideration, to think about, had my planning zoning conference last week and they were talking about solar a little bit. Stearns County actually has, I'd have to ask the question, but they have a scoring system. So because you may have multiple soil types or multiple designations of prime farmland or not across the same parcel, and they would the whole property, and based on the soil types and its use and topography and a number of factors, they actually assign a score to it. And their ordinance says, in order to place solar on that, you need to be at or under that score. If you're over, then they lean on the comprehensive plan identifying that prime farmland is protected. And they recently had, I'd have to look into it a little closer. I think they recently had a case where that was challenged, and I believe Stearns County won that based on it. So that is another consideration. I think regardless, this next step here would be to bring it to the next regular commissioners meeting, and then we can adopt it, or it can be sent back to the planning commission if there's considerations or things you want to think about over the course of the next couple weeks. But next step is some sort of county board action on it.
And most of the counties have got a plan already written up. I mean, this has been in the works for a lot of them for quite some time, so I'm sure that, I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
We do not. We pulled Stearns, Morrison, Douglas, all that and started looking through that. That was all in that folder of stuff that we gave. Man, that was quite a while ago.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for thoughts or ideas, comparisons to what we have here, that would be a good place to go. We have those electronically. If you can't find yours back, I'd be glad to send them to you, or we can print another one too.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I forgot to bring this up during the regular board meeting, but just thinking about canvassing to get it sparked in your memory, that I will need 2 commissioners November 13th at 8:15.
Commissioner Becker and I will be here for personnel,
Oh, perfect.
so we might as well.
You will be doing it then?
Yeah, we have personnel, I believe, at 9.
I
So-
mentioned
Not that I
will not
want
be
to,
around, so.
Yeah.
take away from Commissioner Nasca or Commissioner Danny, but
Now, you should be really happy that we've already got this decided, right?
Yeah, I'm glad we did too.
Thank you. I just wanted to put a bug in your ear, but you already have it figured out, so thank you.
all right, thank you. Nice. Call this work session to adjourn.